This is PBS Reno Arts. I'm Dave Santina.
And I'm Rebecca Cronin.
A couple weeks ago, I had the pleasure of going to Reno Little Theater and enjoying myself with the Midtown Improv Jam, and I wanted to learn more about that. So here we have with us a longtime Reno performer. I've seen you in many things. Ian Sorensen, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is a pleasure.
Well, pleasure is ours. It's a lot of fun. I've seen you in a lot of things over the years, and I say this without trying to be obsequious, but if you're in the show, I'm going to enjoy it.
Thank you.
And so I love that you're in the Midtown Improv Jam. I really had a good time, and I want to know, for the people who are listening and watching, tell us what that show is. What's it all about?
So it's a mix of different forms. So there's, I don't know, there's all these improv people who might be, if they're listening, they're going to be like, he's going to explain this horribly, or he's explaining it horribly. There's short form and there's long form. So there's short form is like, whose line is it anyway? Short form games, like party quirks, questions only, stuff like that. Long form is, I mean, honestly, the options for long form are limitless as far as what kind of forms it can take and what kind of kinks you kind of throw in or quirks. There's the modern, kind of the most recognizable form of long form improv is a herald, which is what we actually do a little bit of both. We were initially kind of focusing on long form, which is, I've been doing short form. Most of the times you've seen me, I've done short form or I've done a play or something. So doing long form was horribly intimidating.
Oh, really?
Because your short form is you're in for 2 minutes, you do this fun game that the audience immediately gets, and then you're out. That's it. So it's like, it's a 1-2 punch. You know what I mean? With long form, it's like an endurance run where it's, hey, we're going to get one suggestion from the audience. We're going to turn this into a series of scenes that can take up to a half an hour. And some might intersect, some might connect in some way, some might not. Sometimes we try to connect them and they don't always work or it feels a little contrived, but that's very, I've seen long form. Like I went to the San Francisco Improv Festival many a year ago, and they did long form to the best you've ever seen it. And it was like, oh, I can't do that, So when they asked me, they kind of had done improv a little bit at Reno Little Theater, and they asked me like, hey, would you want to be doing this? And we're going to do some long form. Is that okay? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. So, but I jumped into it, and honestly, like, it's invigorating. So I think they'd already done a couple of improv shows, just kind of one-offs at Reno Little Theater. And then they kind of got this crew together. It's done it a little bit. Got some other people who've done improv in the past, including myself. And so we just get together and we mess with stuff. And we're like, hey, why don't we try, if we're going to do some short form, let's try games we've never done before. So we experiment every time, every single show.
So it's different every time. No matter when you go, you're going to see a different show.
That's what's great about improv, yeah. It's always different. Even, we could even do a callback. Sometimes we do callbacks to shows just for our own in-joke of a reference we made, or we'll reference something we made a joke about backstage. And that's just a little bit, but the audience, I mean, it's entirely new.
Well, I mean, when you watch, for me, when I watch an improv show with you in it, and I see you're having fun, when you're laughing at what your colleagues are doing, I know it's good, and I know you're having a great time, and that's fun to watch. Just like when people watch a Saturday Night Live bit and they're breaking up the Beavis and Butthead piece that was a few weeks ago.
Right, Heidi Gardner just loses it.
Watching people lose it is that by itself can be highly entertaining, but it only happens when somebody's hilarious, and so when you crack each other up, that's fun to watch.
They do it all the time. Our crew is pretty amazing. And I think let's go through the cast list because it's pretty amazing. Like luminaries in the theater world. Oh yeah, Rebecca passes me the cast list in case I forget all of my friends' names, which honestly could happen.
It could happen.
Libby Bakke, Bryce Kyle, myself, Kevin McRae, Scott Hernandez, Ryan Costello. I guarantee if you've seen a play in Reno in the last 10 years, you have seen one of these people. They're incredible and they're so unique. So unique. Like, it's kind of amazing. Libby is so fast, like just rattles stuff off. Bryce will come up with a reference you won't believe. Like when someone would make a reference to, because it's either just really obscure or old school. Ryan's fast. Just everybody kind of has their own flavor that they bring to the shows.
It's a lot of fun, and you can see the the different personalities playing off each other, and sometimes the moments when somebody gets stuck is the funniest bit.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, there was one, I'm going to reference it, but the show you went to, I believe, we talked about it was a concept was Ringo Starr came up with his own version of bingo called Ringo.
Right.
And basically we alluded to one of our guys, Kevin McRae. He was Ringo in the scene, but he does a horrible Ringo impression. So he was quiet the entire time. And that was hilarious, just to like, we're going to set you up. Oh, and we know you can't do this, but we're going to totally throw you under the bus because it's going to make the audience laugh.
It worked.
Yeah.
You could tell from the audience that all the performers were in on it and were having a great time playing with that concept. It was hilarious. Yeah, that was a really good bit.
That's what's cool about improv too, is like, if you're really comfortable, you don't mind quote unquote failing. Right. Failing is sometimes the most fun. It's like Will Ferrell would talk about doing sketches on Saturday Night Live, and he knew the audience wasn't enjoying it. And he's like, oh, I'm going to make this last so much longer just to kind of get back at you for not enjoying something I'm loving. Not that we like torture the audience by any means, but it's sometimes fun just to like, it's really lovely to set somebody up that you're playing with because you know they're good at something, or you set them up because you know they're bad at something. Like, it can still be funny either way, which is really cool.
That's too good. Performances are roughly once a month. The next show is Friday, August 23rd, but the dates can change each month, right?
Yes. Yeah, usually once a month at this point. It used to be kind of like the same Tuesday every month, but we are all theater people, so we're all in plays and we're rehearsing for other projects. So it was hard to get everybody on the same page and on the same schedule. So it kind of changes it up every month. But people can look at the schedule at renolittletheater.org. It has everything posted for the shows coming up. We don't go very long. Like, it's a good hour 15 minutes. And it's worth your time. It's pay what you wish, which is really cool of Reno Little Theater to do. So if you're like, hey, I'm hard up for money, but I do want a good show, just come in, pay what you like, and enjoy yourself.
So people who have not been to a show, how do you describe the show to people, and how do you get them to go? How do you describe to them what they can expect?
Oh boy. You won't know. We don't know. You know what I mean? Well, actually, one thing you can expect is what's cool is what we've been doing the last 3 or 4 shows is themed shows. So depending on what month we're in, whatever holiday, quote unquote, is like around that time, we kind of theme it onto that. We did a tax day improv show, which you will not see probably anywhere else in the world, I'm pretty confident in saying. So it was like topic, an ask for from the audience is like, hey, what's a big ticket item you'd want to buy if you got a tax refund? Somebody tells us a giraffe, then we go off of that, and it can go just all in wildly different directions. So we did like a tax show. We did a St. Patrick's Day one. And we're going to do, not going to do, but there's a show like planned that was like a teacher appreciation one.
Oh, nice.
So like teachers could come and get a free drink and kind of, we do a little shout out to educators. My brother's a teacher, so I know, I hear what just the struggles.
You're long too.
Yeah.
Going back to your long format, presentations, how's that affected the short format? Did that affect it or improve it in any way? Did you find?
Oh man. I don't know. I think the way we've set it up, I think it's because we start with short form. So we the first half of our show is just short form, quick games. So that if audience has never been to an improv show before, they're like, oh, okay, I understand what they're doing. Right. And then once they have the baseline down, we can be like, okay, here's this other weird, complex thing that we're going to try. That's going to be a little longer, 20, 25 minutes. And we're going to, usually the format is we get a suggestion from the audience. Based on that one suggestion, one of us comes out and does a true monologue about it, and something true from our lives. And then we'll basically pick little tidbits from that monologue, and those will inform what scenes we do. And they'll go, you have no idea where they go. I'm in them, and I'm like, I don't know where this is going. But you just got to yes. The rule of improv is actually I have it tattooed on my arm is yes and.
That's the famous mantra that I've always heard. And so that means what?
Basically, if you are in a scene with a partner and they say, hey, this is it's cool. We're in a police station. You can't be like, no, we're not. We're in a farm. or farmhouse. Like, no, you immediately shut down the energy of that scene and you shut off your partner. You have to be like, yeah, we're in the police station. And you know what? I think I want to live here. I want to live in this jail that they've set up, this lockup. I like it in here. It's very comfortable. Like you by saying yes and adding something onto that, you've just opened a whole new world and you can explore other
And you're
things.
just building upon each other.
Yeah.
Without it coming to a screeching halt.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're living in the jail and shopping perhaps at the JIKEA for furniture for the proper cell size.
Yes.
And just go from there. Yeah, anything you want, you can play with it. That's fun. There's one game you played that I remembered that I thought was a good example of what I think. I think this is a short form game, and that's the numbers game. When so Rebecca, pick a number between 1 and 10.
2.
And if I picked 6, then you would say you have to speak only that number of words throughout
each time
the scene.
you speak.
Yeah.
So it was basically like I got 1 to 5. Going to pick a number between 1 and 5, 1 and 10, 1 and 15, 1 and 20, and I got up to what 19.
I think it was 19.
19 was one of the words.
Yeah.
So I gave Bryce. I was like, Bryce, every time you speak, you have to say 19 words. And he's like, oh, come on.
It's good.
But again, to see him squirm and like try to figure it out in his head is it's even like when we're counting on our hands because we're trying to figure out.
Remembering
and it's
that,
still, I mean, it's awkward, but it's still very funny.
That's what makes it funny, though. I mean, did you say 2 or 4? You said 2?
I said 2.
So what's a 2-word sentence to start a conversation?
Hello there.
How are you?
That's 3. You just blew it. See? You've gone over your 2.
Or HOW''RE. I mean, it's technically with the preposition.
Good argument. How are you?
I wasn't prepared for the rapid fireness of this. So I'll be better now.
She's like, I did not agree to do improv on this podcast.
I think I did by sitting down.
but just by sitting down.
Okay, I'm ready.
But that was funny. All right, so you can do more than 2 if you'd like.
No, 2 is better.
All right, so it's 2. You start.
Hello there.
I have 6, so I'm out.
Oh, well.
That's a shame. Now, let's quit. And that's how quickly you can get out of there.
That was, wow, in and out.
There
Very
you
good.
go. So but that's the game, and you guys take that and go with it.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. So
thank you.
A lot of fun. And so, so if you're listening, and if you haven't been to one of these shows, it's just watching the creativity happening in the moment is really fun. It's a fun thing to witness. And the fact that it's funny people doing it is a bonus. Because even if you were just actors doing an exercise, it would probably be interesting to watch, because I think that, improv is often assumed to be comedy, but I know that it doesn't have to be. There's an improv class, I think it's Reno Improv.
Reno Improv. We've done some stuff there as well.
And I know that some of what they do is they do scenes, but they're not always comedy. They can be drama, or they can be whatever they become, right? Because they're improv'd. So that's a thing that it's a different kind of improv, but I think that there is a whole different mindset probably to that, because you're not trying to be funny necessarily.
That's the thing, even doing, which I find myself sometimes falling into a pit of like, I need to have a funny line, or I need to say something funny. That is not the point. Even when you're doing comedic improv, quote unquote, you don't try to be funny. You really just need to be in the scene. You need a yes and. You need to trust your partner, and you need to like basically prop them up and respect them. And honestly, inherently, it's probably going to be funny. And even if it isn't, I mean, I remember Jason Mantzoukas. I don't know if people know. He's an actor. People have seen him. I guarantee they've seen him in shows. He's been in Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The League and stuff like that. He's been doing improv forever, and he talked about like, oh no, you're not trying to like. There I've scenes where I've done where it's like I'm going through a divorce. The first 2 minutes are hilarious, and then it's 5 minutes of me sobbing and having this really hard conversation, and then it gradually goes back to funny. It's okay to have both. We don't, okay, I won't say we're going for that. We're not going for like necessarily like really hard hitting stuff, but it can happen. And that's, it's okay to have those kind of peaks and valleys.
It sounds really nice because it's all in the moment when our lives are very structured all over the place. So it sounds like a really great opportunity as an actor and as an audience member to just see what happens.
You can just let go. I mean, admittedly, like my uncle, he's very supportive of like me performing, but he's like, every time I watch you improv, I'm so nervous because I just don't know what you're going to do. Some audience members have that reaction of like, I'm so freaked out because I don't know what I don't know how they're getting out of this. And we're like, we don't know either, but we're just going to keep talking and keep coming up with new stuff until we kind of weasel our way out of whatever trap we've kind of put ourselves in.
Trap. That's a good word.
Yeah.
So after doing this for so long, do you ever feel nervous or scared or anything?
Honestly, yes. And I think that's a good thing. I'm going to keep referencing all of these like comedy heroes of mine because they always have like advice that I always go back to.
Sure.
But Bill Hader, he talked about having like panic attacks on Saturday Night Live and he would be really anxious.
Wow.
And he I can't remember who he was talking to, but he was talking to somebody who's been performing for decades. And he's like, are you nervous? And he's like, yeah, I'm nervous. He's like, really? And he's like, yeah, I'd be really scared if I wasn't scared. And that's what I always think of as like, if I don't feel nervous before a show, I feel like, oh, I don't care. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm a little complacent, or I'm like, am I going to be going into this bored? Am I going to go to this tired? Like, if I'm nervous, it means, oh, I care about this and I want to do well, and that's okay. And once I'm out there and I'm on a roll, like there was a play, I know it's different because it's scripted, but I just did a play a little bit ago at Reno Little Theater, and I had so much dialogue and I had to say it so fast. But once you're in it, I was nervous, obviously, for the first 30 seconds. Once I start rattling it off, I'm just like, oh, I'm in it. And you're just enjoying yourself and you don't worry about it so much.
So at what point do you feel that you're ready with something like a play? Because that's one of those things I think about. Everyone doing local theater is working usually a real job beyond that, and then giving the time and having to study and memorize lines. And it always feels like such an overwhelming prospect, and yet you kill it, right? You come out and you kill it. So how much do you have to put in? How, from the first reading of a script to that, whatever that moment is, if there is one, where you feel like, okay, I'm ready to do this now in front of human beings. What is that? What is that period?
Honestly, like it can be, our rehearsal time for the play I just mentioned was like 2.5 months. And it was like
a daily rehearsals, or pretty
much like we try to, not so much on the weekends. Like everyone, like once we got closer to when we were starting the show, like actual show times, it would be a little on the weekend, but every weeknight for, 3 hours, we'd be going over dialogue, and then we'd do blocking and it kind of, I don't know if you ever feel quite ready until, I didn't feel ready maybe the night before we opened. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, do I have everything? You know what I mean?
Okay.
So but once I kind of once we got a flow going and we just knew, like everything was just rattling off, even opening night, I was like, okay, no, we got this. But the thing is, I always feel, I don't know, it's kind of a double-edged sword because it's nice to do a play. Usually the run times are like a month. You know what I mean? Like a month and a half.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, we'll wrap this up. And it's right about that time that I'm like, oh no, but this is when it's just getting perfect. You know what I mean? Like I'm right there and this process is ending now? Oh man. Okay. But it's also nice to be like, okay, I did that thing. I worked on it for a good 4 months at this point. Let's move on to the next
creatively
project.
Ready for something new.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Cool.
So
do you have a preference between scripted work and the unscripted stuff?
I used to drift toward improv more. I think I like both equally. Improv just, again, it's an entirely different beast. So it kind of works a different part of my creativity more than the scripted. Scripted is almost more studious, I guess, because improv, you can just show up. We have a practice that we do beforehand just to be like, okay, what games do we want to do differently this time around? Or do we want to do different forms or whatever? But it's a one-off and then, it's all made up. So it's like, yeah, I can just invent.
Okay.
And then, but for a play, it's like, oh, I open up this other part of my creativity where I'm like, what am I going to do with this character? What do I think his motivation is? What can I add to this?
Yeah.
It's a little more, a different part of my brain, I think, but I like them both equally.
Sounds like they both complement each other.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, we'll be, that's what I love about improv is we would be rehearsing stuff. Ryan Costello, who is in the improv group with me, we were in the play together. And actually a number of those people were, and they would just do something off the cuff during a rehearsal. And we're like, oh, well, you have to keep that. It's so funny. Just a little gesticulation or, you know, some movement or the way they said a line. And we're like, okay, no, you're keeping that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
How about accents? Throwing in accents, because I saw this play, and
Oh, really? Okay.
And I'm trying to remember who it was who played the I think he was Spanish character.
It was
and French character, yes, and had
supposed to be French.
It was a while ago. Forgive me, but it was a fun accent. He was wielding it with aplomb, we shall say, and it was a lot of fun. The audience got a kick out of it, and there were moments when I thought I caught some smirks in the cast as well, and I thought that was great. And so that's part of. Sometimes I imagine that comes out of rehearsals.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's in the script already. It's like and then it was a total farce that we did.
Yeah.
That was the play. So it's like everything's played up like, and he's a Frenchman in a farce. So he's going to be very like stereotypical, like, you know, and that was actually Bryce Kyle, who I do improv with. He played that part and he did fantastically. And actually we do take the accent seriously. Like we had an accent coach.
Okay.
And she teaches theater at UNR, so she knows what she's doing. So we would, you know, I think getting again, it's like a baseline, getting that baseline down of like, I need to get the right vowels and stuff like that. And then, yeah, I'll be a little more like outlandish. Like I had a British detective and I would slip into like, oh my God, like just so like cartoonishly British.
Right. I think that's what what I'm thinking about is just pushing it a little into the cartoonish territory for effect and for a laugh.
Yeah. Like we're not doing Downton Abbey. Like this is very like, it's as over the top as you can get pretty much. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned UNR, and you are a student, a Reynolds School graduate, correct?
Yes. Reynolds School of Journalism.
So how does a journalism student become a comedic force in town? Has it always been a thing that you've wanted to do? How do those things work together, or do they?
Honestly, they're kind of independent of each other. I did a little theater in middle school, did a little more heavily in high school, loved improv, but didn't do it that much. And then independent I was like going to school for 2 years. And actually, I hadn't even declared my major yet. I was just listless, and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. And then a friend of mine from high school was like, hey, we're doing this improv sketch thing, and one of our guys dropped out. Do you want to do it with us? And if you like it, you can stick around. And I'm like, sure. So I did that, and then I ended up doing improv with that team for 10 years.
Wow.
And then, so that was just completely like, basically, I'd go just do school, do work, and then I'm like, I'm going to go over here and do this improv sketch thing for a number of years. And then I graduated and I'm like, well, I think I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So which is what I did. And then that graduated to, I met a good friend of mine, Amanda, who was has been a guest star in our improv shows. We've done improv together, and directs theater. And she's like, hey, you should be in this play, which ended up being the first play I was in locally, which again, that created I've been doing theater in Reno for 7 or 8 years. Longer?
It seems like longer, but
yeah.
I know at one point you moved away and then came back. So
I did.
You took a break.
During the pandemic, I went to Eastern Washington, where my now wife was going to school, and stayed with her, and we got engaged and came back down, got married, and got jobs, and now we're here.
And now you're here making people laugh all across this valley. Really fun. Tell me if this is true. I have a theory that the people who are really good at doing improv have to have a level of intelligence in order to draw upon life experience and just general knowledge to pull in ideas and place them, in front of an audience or in front of their colleagues, their teams, because you'll throw things up out of nowhere that make me laugh because it's somewhat obscure, or it's something that not everybody's going to pull out.
Right.
I remember there was a physical scene. This was years ago, and you were I think over the back of somebody else, and they had started some kind of a fight, and there was a scene where they would switch I think there was like in the middle of the scene, they would switch perspective and then you had to immediately react to that and jump up. And you jumped up and would say, hey, thanks for teaching me Krav Maga. And I cracked up because I'm like, who knows? And not that many people know this. I think it was an Israeli martial art.
Very obscure.
And I laughed out loud, and not everybody would even know to say that or to even consider that. And you pull it up instantly. And I thought, this is why Ian is hilarious, because he's a smart person who has fun with his intelligence. And I think that's a big part of doing good improv, in my opinion.
I think that's a part of it. I think is just, again, reaching into that, just your mind of like, what is the weirdest things that I've just learned about either a week ago or I've known about my whole life because of some reason or another. And I can just be like, because I could have said karate. I could have said something regular. And that's one of the things I actually learned from an old friend that I did improv with, Emily. She's like, don't go for the first choice. If you can go quick and go for the 8th option for whatever this thing is, this archetype is, that's so much better. The more specific, the better. Because again, I could have been like, thanks for teaching me martial arts. And you're like, okay.
Right.
But in Krav Maga, like, no one who's going to pull that out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's nice to have that. On top of that, having that random knowledge or random information floating around is just commitment. And sometimes I admittedly, I have trouble with that where I'm like, I don't know about this character I started doing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if I'm doing the voice right, but like, it's 100% like if you just commit, then the audience is going to believe like, oh no, he's in it. He's in it right now, you know, and they'll be sold on the idea that you're trying to create on stage.
Love it. And I think it's absolutely true. We're about to run out of time, but I have to share a compliment that a mutual friend paid you when I saw him last week. He called you the single best performer in Reno in every way. He said you're the best. He said you're the best singer and dancer, which I've never witnessed, but he said you're a great singer, you can dance, you're hilarious, you're a great actor, all of these things. And I thought, that's high praise, but I have watched enough of your work. I can't argue that. So I'm really glad that we were able to come in and be a part of this. And we look forward to more performances. So again, Midtown Improv Jam at Reno Little Theater. Check the website.
Check the website, renolittletheater.org.
Next show is August 23rd, and for future shows, check the website.
Also, thank you for relaying that to me. That was very nice.
I think if somebody compliments you, it's good to know, and if you can give them out, it's even better. And so, I'm not good at taking them, but I can give them out.
That's kind of,
and that was a relay, so that's even easier. So, all right, we got to get out of here. So, reminder to watch Artifacts on PBS Reno via broadcast or live stream, or the PBS app, or on the YouTube channel. And you can read art views also at pbsreno.org. Now, if you have a question, maybe a comment or a suggestion, send them to us at podcasts@pbsreno.org. I'm Dave Santina.
And I'm Rebecca Cronin.
Thanks to Ian Sorensen, and thank you for listening to PBS Reno Arts.